I almost didn't go. By then, my mother's birthday dinners had become less about celebration and more about choreography. My father at the head of the table, my sister orbiting him like a favored apprentice, extended family performing warmth loudly enough to cover whatever was actually broken underneath. Still, I showed up. I brought the car because technically it was under my name. I'd funded most of it through the trust my grandfather established before he died, one my parents had partial oversight on while I handled active management after turning 30. It had started as a practical arrangement. Over time, it became something else, a resource. My father loved resources. The restaurant was expensive in the way insecure people prefer. Gold-trimmed menus, oversized floral centerpieces, waiters trained to disappear. My mother smiled too hard when I arrived, already nervous, already aware of how evenings like this could turn. You made it, she said, like it was a surprise. Dad barely looked up. Of course, my sister added, sipping wine I probably helped pay for. She always comes when money's involved. A few people laughed. I smiled politely and took my seat. I'd spent years learning that dignity often sounds like silence. Dinner moved the way it always did, backhanded compliments, strategic interruptions, subtle reminders that no matter how much I contributed, I was still treated like an outsider whenever it benefited someone else. Then came dessert. My mother was halfway through blowing out candles when my father stood, tapping his glass. He loved an audience. I think tonight is the perfect time, he announced, his voice carrying with theatrical confidence, to finally acknowledge something we've all known. The room quieted. He turned toward me. You've never really been family. There it was. Not anger, not drunkenness, not a slip, a deliberate performance, he continued, smiling as though generosity lived inside cruelty. You've always acted separate, independent, difficult. So maybe it's time we make it official. From this point forward, don't consider yourself part of this family. My sister actually clapped first. A few cousins joined. Someone muttered, about time. And then, unbelievably, people laughed. For one strange second, it was almost surreal enough to be funny, so I giggled. Not loudly, just enough. Dad's smile faltered. I reached into my purse, pulled out the key fob, and placed it gently on the white tablecloth beside his champagne glass. Then I guess, I said evenly, you won't need this. Silence. Real silence. I took out my phone. A few taps, the Family Trust joint operational account, used for household support, vehicle maintenance, and several business obligations my father had quietly leaned on for years, was closed from my end, not emptied unlawfully, not stolen, simply severed, my portion, my authority, my access. Removed, my father's face changed first, not rage, fear. My mother went pale. What did you just do? I looked at her not unkindly. I stopped confusing obligation with belonging. My sister snorted. Is that all? She leaned back, laughing louder now, desperate to recover the room. God, you're so dramatic. So I nodded. Actually, yes. Then I stood, thanked my mother for dinner, and walked out. No shouting, no scene. Just heels against polished floor. Behind me, whispers erupted. I was halfway home when the call started. First my mother, then my father, then numbers from financial advisors, attorneys, and finally my sister. I ignored them all. 30 minutes later, she left a voicemail. Gone was the laughter. She was crying, shouting. Apparently, she'd discovered that her tuition reimbursement pipeline, rent support, and access to the vehicle insurance umbrella had all been tied to structures I controlled. Structures she had never bothered to understand. Please, she screamed through tears. You can't just do this. Dad said he didn't mean. But he had. That was the problem. For years, they'd mistaken my restraint for dependence. My father thought family was something he could grant or revoke publicly, never realizing that legal and financial ecosystems don't run on ego. They run on signatures. Authority became unmistakably clear the following week in a conference room where attorneys confirmed every adjustment was lawful, documented, and irreversible without my consent. For the first time in my life, my father was forced to sit quietly while someone else explained consequences to him. He didn't apologize, he tried to negotiate. Which told me everything. My mother sent messages for months, some pleading, some guilt-ridden, some almost honest. I answered only once. I loved you all enough to keep helping, I wrote. But I won't stay where humiliation is the price of admission. My sister never really changed. She just learned panic. And me? I bought myself a smaller car, moved in my remaining assets. Simplified everything. People assume revenge is loud, but sometimes the deepest form of justice is administrative, a signature, a closed account, a quiet exit. They cheered when I was disowned. They screamed when they realized what losing me actually meant.